And I think that leads us to our next discussion here. The Ten Commandments will be, Ten Commandments bills exchange between Representative Tallarico and Representative Noble. This is interesting what's going on here. This is another sign showing that what we've been saying is true. We're going to see more of discussions like this happening on a public square. And this is why having this, you are crucial to this discussion, because we have the ability to actually use the understanding that we have to speak to both camps in ways and unite them in Christ and the truth that we believe. We don't have to pick side on these issues as long as we stay on the side of Jesus, because these discussions are becoming more and more prevalent. Now, let's listen to this dialogue here, this exchange between those two representatives.
Does the gentlelady yield for some questions?
The lady yields for questions. The lady yields.
Thank you, Representative Noble. What is the fourth commandment?
Are you referring to my to the way it's written in the bill?
Yes.
Okay, right. Keep the Sabbath.
Being here on Saturday.
It's about us being here on Saturday. Is that ironic or what?
So what does it mean to keep the Sabbath holy?
Well, I think it's, you want to get into theology here? I'd love to, if you'd like to. I think it's really important that we take a day of rest. I think God, who founded the world, didn't need rest, and yet he took a day of rest after he did creation, and I think he was a good example to us to take a day of rest. And that is enshrined in our rules, in our Constitution, where it says accepting Sunday in our very early documents as a nation.
And so part of keeping the Sabbath holy is not working on the Sabbath?
That is, yeah.
And what is
a day of rest.
The Ten Commandments come from Judaism. What day is the Jewish Sabbath?
It is on Saturday.
And what day is it today?
It is Saturday. Here we are.
The Christian Sabbath is what day?
Sunday, in honor of the day that Jesus rose from the dead.
And we're scheduled to give this bill a final vote on what day of the week?
It's ironic, isn't it?
Would you be willing to postpone your bill so that we're not breaking the Ten Commandments by working on the Jewish or Christian Sabbath?
I love that you said that, because if we had not had your point of order the other day, we would have actually already completed that.
And so, Representative Noble, you're saying that you'd rather tell people to follow the Ten Commandments than follow it yourself?
I would have rather have had this bill passed the other day when it was time. And you know, that's really sad that we are under such a crunch in time now with the end of session. Our Texas forefathers only gave us 160 days to pass bills, and that's where we are in this session.
We as a legislature
140, I'm sorry, correction.
We as a legislature are about to force every teacher in the state to post the Ten Commandments in their classrooms.
If they are donated.
Do members of the Texas legislature follow the Ten Commandments?
Is that about the bill?
Your bill is about the Ten Commandments.
Yes,
I'm asking, do members of this legislature follow the Ten Commandments?
So again, this bill is about honoring our historical, educational, and judicial heritage with the displaying of the Ten Commandments.
The ninth commandment is, thou shalt not bear false witness. Are you aware of any legislators who have lied about anything?
That is, you know, there might be one coming up in a minute if you keep talking. We'll see.
The seventh commandment is, thou shalt not commit adultery.
Yes.
Do you think that members of the legislature should focus more on trying to follow the Ten Commandments rather than telling others to follow them?
Maybe they didn't have them posted.
I am, you know, it is incumbent on all of us to follow God's law, and I think that we would be better off if we did.
That's a great segue into my next question, which is, do you think our public schools are missing God?
Again, we are talking about historically what our founding fathers believed. I have a lot of quotes from our founding fathers if you want me to go there, and I would love to do that if you would like me to.
Well, you just mentioned God's law, so I was just asking if you think our public schools are missing God's law.
In some instances, yeah. I would not, I think that there's some amazing teachers out there that are showing an awful lot of Christian behavior and love and concern to their students. So I'm not going to paint that broad of a brush like you just did.
Do you think that seeing the Ten Commandments in a classroom might make a student feel closer to God?
Again, that is not the focus of this bill. The focus of this bill is to look at what is historically important to our nation, both educationally and judicially. But if you would like to look through some of those textbooks that are on my desk, you will see the foundation that our forefathers used when they learned to read and write.
In the committee hearing for this bill, you said that students should see the Ten Commandments in their classroom and remember, quote, God is watching. Is that correct?
What?
In the committee hearing for this bill, you said that students should see the Ten Commandments in their classroom and remember, quote, God is watching.
I do not recall that.
You said it in response to a question from Representative Bryant in the Public Education Committee. You don't recall that?
No, obviously you do, though. You know, that was like 4:30 in the morning.
Okay.
We were all pretty sleep deprived. I don't remember in what response that was, if indeed that was a response. I do, however, believe.
The lady's time has expired.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk. It's just, oh man, that was a beautiful exchange.
So, Brother James, can you give some background on this gentleman, at least what side or perspective he's coming from in relation to her? Do you have any at all on that, like who he is at all, as far as why he's drilling her?
I don't know much. I'm gonna look. I can look it up right now.
Sure.
Okay, to Larry Cole.
I'm assuming he's opposed to legislating that.
Yeah, it sounds like he's. So what I got from it sounds like he's opposing to it.
Yeah, he is a Texas House representative. Okay, District 50. So this is not saying much about him, but he's definitely not for
that.
For that, yeah. Obviously, he's not. But I don't think he's from Texas.
She didn't seem very prepared to address some of those direct questions in relation to that.
No, she was not. She
wasn't at all. She kept repeating, like I said. She didn't sound like she was prepared for his.
I think the interesting point is, too, even before touching on the after statements, he really drilled in, and there was an acknowledgement that the Sabbath is the 7th day. Did you catch that?
I did. Yep.
Yes, even though they
publicly live for the whole world to see, right? It's being clearly understood that the 7th day is the Sabbath.
Yeah. You know, I would say it's
she's
just
a former teacher. Okay, go ahead.
No, you're good. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
It says that James is James Tallarico, that is. Mm-hmm. He's an American politician and former teacher, so he was a teacher. But that gives us a little bit of background, a bit of what he stands.
Yes.
He also. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Sheldon. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I can tell by his direct statements that they've been well thought out, and he seems to have probably a lot more knowledge of this subject and the commandment than she does. And that's interesting. Yes, because he's he's making a strong point, and he understands that she's in a position not to really address what he's asking. So
yeah. And it goes back to the question, is it a good idea to have the 10 Commandments in public school? What do you guys think?
Well, I just wanted to answer to what he was saying in the video. What stood out to me is when he said, do any of your legislative body keep, for example, commit adultery, thou shalt not bear false witness? That's a rebuke. Right. It almost sounds like it's almost like the time. Sorry, you want to say something?
It sounds like he knows there's a lot of stuff going on among.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting from that. And
let me ask you guys something on that. Now, this is just a talking point. Okay, is it a safer approach? And I'm interested in hearing you guys' response to neither legislate for or against, but leave it as a choice for the people to decide if they want to bring it and show it, or if they don't, it's their decision. Just as, I mean, legislating it to the point where it's a law that you must have it, and then legislating that you cannot have it. Isn't that both kind of like a trap on both ends, the way I'm looking at it?
Correct. And actually, you just articulated my thoughts. Is the government should not be enforcing it, neither should they be discouraging others from enforcing it. And what I mean by that is certain public schools want to come and they want to sit and make a decision and vote to have the Ten Commandments in their public school, so be it. Right? But if they choose not to have it, it should not be coming from legislative bodies. It should not be coming from the top. I've always have an issue, and I know all laws in nature has a degree of morality in it. Nobody can deny that. All laws, whether you look at driving laws, drunk driving, whichever direction you look at it, there's an element of morality. We do understand we live in a world where we do to uphold a degree of morality, or else we're going to have chaos. But do you want your politicians to uphold these moralities for you, or should they create an environment where we can help upholding them ourselves? I would say the second is more where I stand, right? They're supposed to protect our right in Constitution so that we, as a supposed moral people, and I say supposed for a reason, because you still have to be converted. You can't just uphold laws without conversion will create more tyranny and confusion and anti-God. And so, but at the same time, you do have to push forward some degrees of morality, particularly the last 6 commandments. You do have to agree with what it says in the last 6 commandments in order for society to function appropriately. But when I think politicians start touching either one of the first 4 commandments and start enforcing those ones, like when he said Christian Sabbath, you and I know there's no such thing as a Christian Sabbath, right? There is the biblical Sabbath, and that's just it. It's both for Jewish and Christians. It's just that's the one we have. There's no such thing as a Jewish Sabbath, so it's God's Sabbath. It was established before there was a single Jew in the Garden of Eden. So but at the same time, I want morality to be upheld in public square, in public schools, to protect families and children. I agree with that. But I'm not okay with politicians pushing it, because which version of the law are they going to push? How far will they go? Will they start meddling with any of the first 4 commandments? So what happens then if you start setting these precedents? What happens then when you're no longer in power? What happens when a Buddhist takes control? What happens when a Muslim takes control of the government, right? What if they want to push Sharia law? Because you've set a precedence to uphold, moral laws or divine laws in public squares. So would you say now, because you're a Muslim, you can't bring that here? That would create a serious chaos. And I think it's best that they stay away from that. This is why church and state, it's better to keep those separate. They can live in the same neighborhood, but don't sleep in the same bed, and I think it's always best to go in that direction when it comes to it.
Yes, and just to add, notice she mentioned what the Christian Sabbath was to her understanding. This actually goes along with even the Catholics the priests or folks, they will tell you that why they changed the biblical Sabbath to Sunday, transferred, saying that they have authority, is because Christ resurrected on the first day of the week. But in Matthew 20, verse 1, if you want, you can pull that out so the viewers, audience can see it. In Matthew 20, verse 1 is a giveaway clue to that. Matthew 20, verse 1. And while you pull that up, notice she said the Christian Sabbath versus, he's talked about the Jewish Sabbath, which is another often misunderstanding. It's often equated that the biblical seventh-day Sabbath is only for the Jewish people. When we covered this before on your channel, that the Sabbath was kept before the Israelite nation, right? God himself kept, he rested on the 7th day. But in Matthew 28, verse 1, No, chapter 28, verse 1. Yeah, chapter 28, verse 1.
You want me to read it? You said 28? I'm sorry?
Yeah, 28, yeah.
Oh, I thought 20. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're good. You could read it, sir. Yeah, you can read it.
Okay, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre.
Okay, so do you notice this is what we often overlook, or many people, Christians, overlook? They say, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week. Notice she said in the video why it was a Christian Sabbath, because Christ rose. Didn't she not say that he rose on the first day? So that's why they transferred the Sabbath to this first day of the week. But God said clearly in Genesis, the seventh day, Exodus 20, verse 8 to 11, the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it, and so forth. Christ in his death rested on the Sabbath. As you see here at the end of the Sabbath, he rose on the first day of the week. So even a child can understand this. The first day of the week, they are saying is the Sabbath, right? But the seventh day in the Old Testament, when it says in the Ten Commandments, it says the seventh day. As you said, James, rightly, you said, which Ten Commandments are they upholding to the public? And it's almost like the gentleman, Republican Tal Nico, name is? I don't want to butcher his name. It's almost like he was rebuking, the hypocrisy. Like, you want to uphold this law to everybody, but are you keeping it? Are you keeping the Sabbath? He made a point. Even they're breaking the Sabbath just by even having this, because it's on Saturday, right? Remember, I don't know if you guys had catch that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He mentioned he literally rebuked her. I don't know his faith or belief, but he literally told her, and he says, we're breaking the Sabbath now. Having this discussion, and I think it's on a Saturday. And some people, like including Seventh-day Adventists, keep the Sabbath holy. We don't get into business affairs, business transactions. We literally keep that day holy, set apart for Christ, for God himself. And it's almost like Christ rebuking the Pharisees in their day. They're trying to uphold these extra laws, if you will. They weren't even keeping the Sabbath as they should. They were putting these extra burdens on people and making Sabbath a burden to discourage people even keeping the true biblical Sabbath. But Christ came to demonstrate how the Sabbath should be kept. So it's almost like God is allowing the rocks to cry out in a way through that man, where he asked her the question, do any of your legislative bodies keeping the commandments? Are they bearing false witness? For example, people cheat on their taxes. They're not honest filing their paperwork to the government. The list can go on. It's broader. It's deeper than just, stealing from candy from a store. It's, are you stealing from the government? Are you stealing are you withholding what does not belong to you? That's stealing. That's, just goes deeper. Bearing false witness, coveting, So I did find it quite interesting that he shared that in that little exchange they had there.
Yeah.
That stood out to me.
Yes. Pastor James Smiling, welcome. Thanks for joining us. How you doing today?
Good. I'm sitting here in the house with the power out, so I was trying to find a place where I could be seen at least. So.
Oh, hi, Pastor Millen.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, we are talking about the 10 Commandments in public school here, and we just listened to a representative going back and forth over the 10 Commandments, and it was a very interesting one. I'm not sure if you were able to catch any of it.
I did, and man, that guy, well, he sure had her backtracking pretty quick. She was stuttering. I'd like to know more about this guy, but when in Spirit Prophecy tells us that there will be good people in Congress,
yes,
that stand up and represent the truth, and eventually they will come on board with the truth. They don't even know the full, what they're doing. But this tells me this guy might be what you call a pre-Adventist, if he's right. But as far as it goes, remember the heart of God is love. Love requires free will. So as far as this goes, I like what you guys proposed, Brian and James both. Give everybody an opportunity. Do you want it there or not? Won't force it. We won't legislate it, but give the opportunity for it to be there.
Yeah. Correct.
Because honestly, it can't be a bad thing for the 10 Commandments to be in a classroom. kids that would never ever get to see it might see it, and it might spark their interest. Even kids that are Christians are like, remember the Sabbath day, keep it holy. They look at that. I know, as a pastor, there are some people that have told me growing up as Catholics, they're like, what about that one?
Yes.
What about that command? And that started them on their journey to the truth. So I can see where it'd be a good thing, but the moment it's legislated, the moment it's forced, it's no longer a good thing.
Amen. Amen.
This will be an indication too. I don't know if we can find it or if you guys can pull the quote up. Brother Pastor James was just alluding to that. She states that there would be statements that statesmen that would present arguments that cannot be refuted, and she says it will hold back a tide of evil. Are we familiar with that quote? It's in the Great Controversy.
I heard that. Yes, I heard of this.
Yeah, we can maybe grab that. You see, this is another indication again of how consistent the message in the Spirit of Prophecy is in relation to the things that we're sharing regarding these matters. We're able to show it happening in the public arena, civil arena, and at the same time, it's the religious right that are pushing it, and then we're seeing the very words that are in the Bible and the Spirit of Prophecy being fulfilled before our face as we're looking at it unfold.